Hello and welcome. I thought it's about time I covered a pertinent subject, at least to me anyway. How often should you change your tyre sealant? Last night I came home and the tyre was still pretty inflated, but I thought there was something wrong with it. It was a bit squirmy on the corners. This morning it was semi-flat and there's this bad boy in it. Can't really show you. Anyway, taken it out and obviously I checked the tyre and there was hardly any sealant in it. And I thought it was a good time to, I'm not taking my own advice, so I should really cover that off. So how often should you actually change it? It depends on the season really. Every 3 to 6 months. In the summer it's going to dry out much quicker. In the winter you probably get away with it longer, but as I found out, it's been so muddy and horrible, I haven't bothered checking and was caught out a bit. It got me home, but as you can see from this video, that it just wasn't any sealant sloshing around inside, so it's my own fault, but it got me home even still with that bad boy in it. I spent a bit of time going through the manufacturer's website to see what they say about the individual products, and this is what I found out. First up is the orange seal, and this infographic they got on their website is quite good. It's better than any other manufacturer out there that I've found, and it seems to have all the information all in one place. What we have here is 3 different sealants. They have the regular, the endurance and the sub-zero. Obviously sub-zero is for the winter and the other 2 are for summer riding, and they have different properties as you can see. Working your way across the graphic, you have their longevity, which the regular is shorter, much shorter than the endurance, so it will dry out quicker. And you can see further down the bottom left, the average lifespan is only 30 to 45 days, so just over a month you're going to have to be topping that up again. But on the payoff in the puncture section, it seals larger holes and slices in the next one along. Whereas the endurance sealant lasts for 2 to 4 months, but will seal smaller holes and slices. I'm not sure what the temperature ratings is here, because 11 degrees makes sense in centigrade, but 11 degrees in Fahrenheit is minus 11. So for the regular, and in 0 to 11 for endurance, so 0 to minus 11, and in minus 20 for sub-zero. I don't know if anyone can put in the comments below what that actually means. It doesn't make much sense. Why would you start at sub-zero on centigrade at minus 20? I mean, that's just a bit confusing. I don't really know what to make from that graphic. Next up is the Effetto sealant. I've used this in the past and found it very good. The advice is, depending on whether you've got an inner tube in there or it's tubeless tyres, ranges from 1 month to a year, but also further down it points out that you should check every 2 months to make sure the sealant is still fluid. If it's not, top it up. If it is, pop the tyre back on. Next up is Peatys biofibre. This took a bit more digging to find out how long it lasted, but in the Tell Me More section, this one's a little bit more vague. It says it should last up to 6 months, but check it every 3. If you're riding hotter weather or riding it regularly, then every month you should check it. Now for the OG, stands air quotes no tube sealant. There are 2 variants here, one called quite originally Stands tyre sealant and the other Stands race tyre sealant. They point out that the lifespan is quite dependent on the temperature and the environmental factors, but it ranges from 2 to 7 months, which is better than most of the others on the market. This can be put in through the valve stem, so if you don't want to take the tyre off, this is quite a good solution. Whereas the race sealant can't be put in through the valve, it has to be put in through the tyre. You've got to take a bit of the tyre off to put it in, and that lasts for 2 to 3 weeks, so it will dry out much quicker. But does, in my experience, fill much larger holes than the standard, more fluid sealant. The Schwalbe Dock Blue Professional is made by Stands and is put in through the valve core, so it must be their standard version. So see all the previous comments about that. Couldn't find much more information on that, so let's move on to the next one. Now finally, Silca Ultimate Tubeless Sealant. It's my favourite and the one I currently use at the moment. This is a bit different from the other sealants on the market. It lasts between 90 and 120 days before it needs replenishing. You put it in through the actual tyre rather than the valve because it would just block up the valve. it works down to -12, so you don't need to swap it over in the winter. And rather than using more of this sealant, you use a replenisher to top it up once it starts drying out. You don't have to take the whole tyre off to check this sealant. You can even look in the valve, take the valve core out, have a look in, shine a light in, you'll be able to see it sloshing around, or just pop the bottom of the bead off and say a quarter of the tyre, see what's in there. It's easier to top it up through the tyre rather than going through the valve anyway, because it quite often blocks up. So take it off. If you can't even be bothered to do that, I mean I can't sometimes, just pick the tyre up, shake it around, you'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear it sloshing around. See? Is it picking it up on the microphone? Right. Also, this one here, this is the tyre that I punctured last night. And it's quite a big hole. As you can see, I've left it and it's sealed it. And after a while, just if you get a hole like this and it's punctured, leave the sealant at the bottom, or leave the tyre so it's at the bottom like this, and so the actual sealant is sitting inside on the hole, filling it up, and you'll find that it should seal like this. It's got a little bit of seepage there, as you can tell, but it's you know, it's holding the pressure. So I'll leave that overnight just to double check it. So what do you do if the actual tyre won't seal just with the sealant alone? I mean, you've got a number of options. Obviously, the most extreme is to replace the tyre, but you don't really want to get to that stage. Ideally, if you have a small tool like this, which is they're very similar. There's lots of different brands, but this is the Crank Brothers one. I've mislaid the bits of rubber, but there's tyre bungs or bits of bacon. They're called different number of different things, but you put it in there. Get your tyre, push it in the hole, twist it, pull it out, and it will get stuck in there and fill the hole. You'll be left with it, some of it sticking out of the actual tyre. In an ideal world, you'll cut that off, but you don't always have scissors or a knife when you're out on the trail. So don't pull it all the way out and just leave a small amount, ideally level with the actual tread, so it's very annoying when you actually, if you pull it out too far, every time you do a rotation of the tyre, it hits the frame or rub on something. So just don't pull it all the way through and leave the majority of it inside the actual tyre itself. Out on the trail, if the hole's too big to fill with your bacon bit or tyre bung, then you'll have to resort to probably putting an inner tube in, or you can get something like this, the Park tyre boot. It does a similar job. Ideally, you want to put this in and then put an inner tube inside, and this will stop any dirt coming in and puncturing the inner tube. Or you can use a gel wrapper, or you can use a £5 note or whatever note of your currency. Okay, so I think I've strayed off topic a little bit there, but if there's anything I've missed or anything you'd find handy or little tips and tricks that you know, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.